Welcome to Boring Money, Rich Life. I'm your host, Joy Hicks, and today we're going to talk about Trump accounts. And it's pretty much investing accounts for newly born babies in America. I did make a previous video about the big, beautiful bill, kind of talking about some things that were written into law with the bill. And so for this video, I wanted to talk specifically about the Trump accounts because on this channel, we're talking about money, we're talking about things that are happening in the economy, investing, all that good stuff. So I definitely wanted to dive into this a little bit more as well. And so, with the big, beautiful bill, it was actually passed this month, but they did sign it retroactively. Pretty much everything that was passed with this bill technically started January 1st of 2025. So, all of like the tax things, that were passed into the bill, all of those things are technically going to be for the entire year of 2025. Now, the Trump accounts, it's pretty much the way that I took it, it's kind of like an incentive to get people to have babies. So it's no secret that, like, we are not having babies as fast as, the government would like. A lot of women are deciding to not have children at all. And then women who have children are deciding not to have more children. We know that recently there's been a lot of changes for like reproductive rights and things like that. And so I kind of took this part of the bill to kind of be like a way to get people to want to have more children. And we know a lot of the reasons why families are not having babies is because it is so expensive right now to have a child. The cost of buying a home is the highest it's ever been. We know inflation is super high, tariffs are coming, like there's a lot happening in the economy. Student loan forgiveness is not as big as it was kind of like projected or kind of like hyped to be. So, a lot of the things that would kind of make it cheaper to have a child or even make it more like a comfortable economy to have a child are not really happening. So a lot of people are not having children. So I kind of feel like the Trump accounts are a way, again, to incentivize people to give birth and have babies. So with this Trump account, pretty much if a parent or parents are a US citizen and they have a baby between January 1 of 2025 and December 31st of 2028, they could qualify for a Trump account, which that's going to be like $1,000 deposit into an investing account by the federal government. So it is kind of like a stipend from the federal government, but it is just a one-time contribution. So, if you have children during this time, you'll get that one-time contribution of $1,000 into an investing account for your child. What makes this kind of interesting is the fact that these accounts are going to be backed by the US stock market. So it's not a savings account, it is an actual like investing account for your child. And the whole point is that that money will grow from the time that your baby is born all the way up until your child is 18. So, I mean, the one time contribution isn't, like the biggest thing, but the whole point of this account is to kind of get people kind of planning for college for their kids, teaching their kids financial literacy and things like that. And so that's the reason why it's not a savings account. It is going to be backed by the US stock market. Now, the parents themselves, they can contribute up to $5,000 annually to kind of help this money grow. So, when your baby is born, you would get that one-time contribution of $1,000 into this account. And then you, as the parents, you can contribute up to $5,000 each year and kind of watch this money grow from the time your baby is born until your baby is 18. Now, employers can also set up these types of accounts. And when I was reading, it was saying that the employer can actually match half of your contribution. So they are able to match up to $2,500 as well. So For instance, if you as a parent were contributing the full 5,000 and then you had like a participating employer and they contributed up to the full 2,500, then annually your child would have 7,500 plus the gains or so that they would get from the stock market. And then on top of that, like the compound interest as well. So it definitely could be, a good avenue to kind of look into. Now, once your child is 18, your child can start to kind of access some of these funds. So it was saying that the funds can be used for things like college, job training, or to buy a home. Now, that's also interesting because a lot of like traditional retirement accounts, they'll give you a penalty if you kind of withdraw too early, depending on what type of retirement account that you have. So this account, I guess they're kind of trying to make it like a 529, like a similar type of account like that, but it does not penalize you as the parent or the child who would then be an adult at that time for pulling out money for school or to buy a home. So it was saying that they can take up to $10,000 without a penalty for a home down payment. And then they can also take out an unlimited amount of funds for job training or college. And then once they get to be 30 years old, so let's say they only needed a certain amount during that time, and then they still had money in that account, or let's say your child doesn't go to college or something like that. Then at 30 years old, they are able to withdraw all of the funds from that account. So technically, this account would follow them from birth all the way up until they're 30 years old. And I mean, that's actually really good because I know a lot of us are kind of like, we wish we would have started like investing when we were just born because the amount of like compound interest that you can get from that time is huge. So I would say, that's definitely, in my eyes, I think that's good. A good way to kind of get people talking about investing, getting families to start planning and things like that. Now, it doesn't make like the cost of raising a child any cheaper. Like daycare is still super expensive. Diapers and formula are expensive, but it does help once your child is older and once your child is starting to kind of build their own life. Now, the pros for this, like the people who are supporting of it. Again, they do like the fact that it'll kind of help families remember to focus on like financial preparation and like money management and even teaching the kids like, hey, we're putting money aside for you for when you get older, hoping that that'll kind of teach kids early on about financial literacy. And then also making sure that families are being a little bit more intentional with planning for college and planning for home ownership as well. Now, the cons to this is the fact that not every family is going to be able to contribute as much as the other. And now there's really no limit on how many like investing accounts you can kind of set aside for your children. So they were kind of saying that doing things like this, although it seems like it'll be kind of like a leg up, it can definitely lead to an increase in the wealth gap. So when I was kind of looking at the cons, they were saying that although everybody will receive that initial $1,000 investment, there's families who have a ton of disposable income, and then there's families who don't even have like $2,000 in their savings account. So you'll have this one child who really gets to reap the benefits of this. And then you'll have this other, who is also still going to be financially behind. So I think that's the problem with the wealth gap in general. But there's definitely concerns that this is going to kind of add to the wealth gap. And I feel like that's why having these conversations is so important because honestly, there's probably a lot of people who won't even know about it, to be honest. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people don't even like read about what's happening in the economy. So, I don't even know like if they're going to send out like information about it at the hospital once babies are born or if the families have to like proactively apply. That part I don't know. I'm still kind of like fuzzy on that. So I really don't know how you actually apply to this. But when you just think about even like the accessibility of knowledge, like some people might not find out. And then what happens if you don't learn about this until your baby is like 5 years old? Do you get that money retroactively? You really can't because it's based off the stock market. So you miss out on some of those things. So, I mean, I could definitely see why there's like concerns of this contributing even more to the wealth gap. But I did want to share the information because I'm 30, and I know like a lot of people around my age are kind of deciding if they want to have kids, if they want to hold off and just travel and work. So I wanted to kind of get the information out there. I will say, like, this probably won't change the needle that much, to be honest, because it's not helping the affordability at all. So it definitely helps the child, as an adult and preparing for adulthood. But I think the issue, or kind of like, the elephant in the room, is that the economy has to be good for people to want to have more children. So I feel like this is a good start. Maybe we'll start to see a lot more legislation being passed to kind of like help make things a lot more affordable, because I think that's why people are really not wanting to. Because it's just so expensive to even become a homeowner. So that way you can raise your kid in a stable environment. So, yeah, I think it's a good start, but we'll kind of see what happens over the next 4 years if they do have any other incentives to make those actual like child rearing years a little bit more affordable. But until then, as always, what is one boring thing that you can do today to start fueling your rich life? Again, I'm Joy Hicks, your host. Thank you for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe.